He was my water delivery guy for a store that I ran in Watertown, jewelry store. I'd see him once a month, say hi, that was it. And then one day, we had a special event at the store and I was wearing a red silk dress and that was it. It just seemed like there wasn't even a question. Like I was the one for him and that was gonna be it. And it was true, like everything, fast and furious. We're married. I decide I'm gonna go to nursing school and I'm pregnant. 3 redheaded Irish babies in 15 months' time. And then Amanda came into our life. We bought this house and we've been here ever since. We just lived our family life. You know, they got into schools and then baseball and hockey, and Paul got really involved in all of that.
So my father was always with us growing up, and he would just integrate himself into whatever he could. We were his little Red Army, and just he loved every second of it.
Paulie went first, and we were still really busy with the twins. They were seniors at Malden Catholic. So when that ended, obviously they were all home for the summer, and then Kevin and Brian went to school as well. So for the first time in who knows how many years, the house was quiet, it was clean, and he really struggled. And of course, for me, we're doing exactly what we're supposed to do. Those kids graduated high school. They're supposed to go to colleges. They're supposed to travel. And now Paul's not doing the baseball, and he's not doing the hockey, and he's not doing those things. And he just kind of was flat. You know, and that became a big strain for us, because I'm like, you know, I'm ready. Like, let's go do this. So around that time, I said, listen, we have to talk. And he's like, oh, okay, we have to talk. You know, every husband's worst thing. We were out in the yard, it was gorgeous, and we're on the swing. You know, I said to him that something was wrong. Like, what can I do? Like, what is happening to us? And he didn't say anything. He just kind of looked off into the yard. So now I'm getting tearful because I'm like, oh, okay, are we done? Do you just not know how to tell me that we're done? Nothing. And I start to cry. And instead of like consoling me like he normally would, or no, like let's figure this out, he gets up off the swing, he walks into the house, shuts the door, and locks me out. So I'm sitting there sobbing, and I'm like, oh my God, what just happened here? Like, does he just not know how to tell me? So of course I'm feeling awful and disappointed. So I get up and I go in the house, and he's watching TV. Totally not affected by anything that just happened. And, you know, that was absolutely not him. So from that point forward, I started making phone calls, trying to get marriage counseling, or, you know, I called his primary and I was like, something's happening to him. And then that's where it all started. He just didn't seem anything like he used to be. He just had changed so much. And we saw a neurologist because he was forgetting things and he was struggling at work, and he went on an antidepressant and it didn't touch him. And at the same time, so he's getting counseling, he's getting scans, he's getting neuropsych eval because I'm pushing them and pushing them. And I said, I'm not saying it as a nurse, I'm saying it because I've been with this guy since I was 21 years old. There's something wrong. Our neurologist happened to be pregnant. She said she was gonna go on a leave. And she goes, we gotta do something. I said, great. She goes, let's get a PET scan. And I'm like, PET scan of his head? She's like, yeah. I go, you think he has cancer? And she said, no, but we need to probably just look at it. And I go, absolutely, let's do it. So we do the PET scan. We get the results a couple days later. The neurologist that was covering called me. And she's like, well, it's abnormal. And I go, oh. And she goes, well, your husband either has frontal temporal dementia or he has Alzheimer's. And I'm like, okay, that wasn't really on our radar. We get the diagnosis, you know, sometime later that it was more Alzheimer's than FTD. And now I'm like, okay, let's go. What's next? So Paul went to work the next morning. I sat here with the dog and had a good old-fashioned cry for myself. And I was like, I am in completely uncharted territory, and I really didn't know what to do. So I called the Alzheimer's Association, and I get this wonderful woman on the phone, and I feel like I've got it together. I'm like, okay, what do I need to do? And so she tells me, I'll send you the package. You do this thing, take a breath, we're gonna help you. She was so supportive, and I'm sobbing, and I'm sobbing. And I'm like, she's like, oh my God. I go, wait, just give me a second. And I pull it together. I'm like, okay, go. What's next? And literally, like a checklist, I went through it without even thinking about it. I just trusted this person on the other end of the phone, who obviously knew way more than me. And, you know, since then, I've called the Alzheimer's Association numerous times when I have a thought at 2 o'clock in the morning, if I haven't slept, and I'm like, what do I do next? And it's everything. It's from care, you know, financial questions, it's our future, it's long-term care questions. I don't know what I would have done without that support.
So it was tough during school because as the months progressed and we actually found out what happened, that's when things just took a steep decline, and seeing that change within that 4 or 5 month span was just insane to come back to.
So like a typical morning like this morning, getting Paul ready, it's very different than it was, you know, just a few months ago even. I do all of his care, and I always try to greet him with like a smile because it really sets the tone for him for the day. And I kind of shepherd him into the bathroom, and, you know, I start the shower. Shaving is quite a challenge, but he has to look good. Like, I have to have that man looking good because he was like that. We go and we get dressed. I pick his clothes. He gets confused. And the whole time he's talking to me like, what are you doing that for? Where are we going? I know what I'm doing, Nikki. I can do this. But then he can't, and he doesn't. And so I just say, of course you can. But let me just do this thing for you. And, you know, Paul, we have to go because I have to go to work and you have to go to work. And so I tell him the club is work, and he helps all the people there. And he's like, okay, fine, I'll go to work. And at the end of the night, I get him up to bed, get his pajamas on, get him in the bed. When I crawl into bed at the end of the day, every once in a while, he'll do what he used to do, and he'll put his hand out so that he'll touch me, and then off to sleep. And I love that, and I miss that. So every once in a while, I get that.
When my son got this disease, I prayed to God for a miracle, and he gave me Nikki. I mean, she's holding it together. I mean, she's the whole soul of the thing. I'm so lucky that I have somebody like her there, because I don't know what to do. It's my son, and I worry so much about him. But I know he's in great hands.
So our future with Paul, you know, as he progresses, my biggest concern is that he become unsafe. And, you know, as he is getting so much worse just in the last few months, I called the Alzheimer's Association the other day and I said, how do I pick a long-term care facility? And they said, this is how you do it. They think he's ready now, and I'm just not. But I don't want him to get hurt. Like, I don't want something to happen to him because I kept him home longer. And I feel like, you know, when he goes, like, he's not gonna last very long. So for me to say, okay, it's time, I almost feel like that's me saying, he does have these periods, and from what I understand, other people have them too. You know, it just, poof, he's there, and then poof, gone. But I'm telling you, he was there for a minute. I didn't even have to see him. He said, hey, baby, and I was like, hey. Like, just the way he said it. And I was driving, and he put his hand on my leg, and I was like, hi. And he's like, hi. And I'm like, oh my God, he's here. I was just so glad that I just thought to ask him right away. And I asked him really quickly. I'm like, hey, I said, Paul, you know, is there anything we haven't done? He's like, what? And I go, anything. Anywhere you want to go, any place you haven't seen with me, anything you want to do, anything. And I thought I lost him, but he was thinking. And he looks at me, and I'm trying to drive the car, and he's like, I just want to spend the next 30 years with you. And I'm like, okay, that was too much. I was ready to bawl my eyes out, and I took another second, and I said, we don't have 30 years. The doctor just told me I only have 6 months. So, like, what do you want to do? And he kind of chuckled. He goes, just as long as I'm with you. And that was it, he was gone. I'll wait for the next one, you know, and see what I get. And so you live for that.